And I want to bring up Kara because I think she's got a lot of insight into this. And I want us to hear what she has to say because I really love it when she speaks. And she brings a lot of passion, and I'll let her tell her own story. So come on up, Kara.
So my name's Kara Badgley. I joined Dr. Morris as his clinical coordinator. And just to give you a little history of my story, actually this is my 10-year anniversary this year of hearing that my son had autism. And when we finally heard that diagnosis, right, there was some relief that we finally knew what was going on, but there was also this feeling of the jail door closing, that cell door closing and locking me behind it, and with never no parole. It was like a life sentence. And autism, I feel, is kind of like this huge umbrella of all of chronic conditions. In autism, every single system in their little bodies are completely compromised to the max. And so basically they told me 10 years ago there was nothing I could do, just go home and love him and keep him safe. Well, that didn't really sit well with me. What do you mean there's nothing I can do? Right? Nothing I can do? And that was just something I couldn't accept. And so I started traveling and went all along the eastern coast of the United States to find healthcare practitioners that were beginning to acknowledge and address underlying causative factors that were creating the symptoms referred to autism. And so when I started learning about his heavy metal toxicity and his yeast overgrowth and his vitamin and mineral deficiencies and his inflammation, again, you might as well just buried me in the ground and stuck a, headstone there because I was so buried deep under the reality of how compromised his body was and how do I get out of this deep hole. And so I started learning about all of that, and I started reading about all that heavy metal toxicity and where is he getting it from, and where's the arsenic and the antimony and the aluminum and the mercury, and and I just became this crazy woman. And autism is isolating enough, but now here I'm ranting to anybody who will listen to me about all this toxicity, which made the rest of the people who hadn't already taken several steps out of my life just disappear altogether. So I received a message that really anchored in my heart pretty soon into this journey of ours of understanding how to support his body to heal, that if I continued attaching myself to those causative factors, then I was going to die. My body was under so much stress of being a single mom by that time, with 2 small boys and working and everything that goes on with life, that I was dying, taking care of him, taking care of both of them. And so I received this message, and I understood that I needed to focus on what I could do, and I needed to focus on my happiness more than I needed to focus on those causative factors. Yeah, I had those in my peripheral vision. I knew what was going on, thank goodness, even 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I was on dial-up internet. I had my first cell phone. It didn't even text message. So I realized that I needed to create this atmosphere of recovery in our home, and I did that by really finding my happiness, returning back to my joy. And I started seeing this journey of our recovery more of reclaiming our freedom and our joy than I did of fighting the yeast or trying to, excrete the metals or fight the parasites, kill the yeast, right? I stopped focusing so much on that fighting and more just embracing what I could do to support our bodies to heal, me included. When I say that we have autism, it's because whenever there's a chronic condition in the home, it's truly everyone has it, in my opinion. And so we advocate patients and their families that this is a family program. And so when I started attaching myself to finding what I could do and what I felt good about, then more things became reasonable for me to layer into our care plan. And I started understanding how our care plan was evolving and layering these different interventions to work in combination to support our whole body and our whole family to return back to happiness. And so I just want to share one quick story. I don't want to take up too much of Dr. Morse's time, but I realized my boys were growing up without hearing their mom laugh. Our home was really solemn. It was really serious. It was really depressing. And so when this message came to me that I needed to return back to joy, I started practicing laughing. And I remember the first time we were on the trampoline when I practiced laughing for the first time, both of my boys stopped and they were so scared. They looked at me. Now, granted, it probably sounded kind of psychotic at the time, right? It was so forced. But over time, I made that a priority to enter laughter back into our home. So I started watching funny movies and anything that I could do, practicing on a daily basis to laugh. And I noticed as I really attached to that joy of returning that joy into our home, everybody started getting better. And that helped me continue our journey of traveling great distances. We didn't have, any local doctor like Dr. Morse at the time who had a clue what to do. Medication and actually institution was our prognosis. And that's what they were telling me. He was so far gone and so violent and so aggressive at the age of 3, I could barely physically manage him. So I work with our patients on their care plans to take a look at the big picture, not just get so tunnel visioned into fighting the parasites, fighting the yeast, mobilizing the toxins, excreting them. I want to work with patients to understand that philosophy behind the healing. And Dr. Morse really helped me understand even the bigger picture of the care plan as I continue my own education with healing from chronic conditions. And those symptoms of the heavy metal toxicity, the leaky gut, the parasites, the candida that we're talking about today, the inflammation, it really even goes back to on a cellular level. And I love learning about how the cells really aren't communicating because they're so gunked up with all this environmental toxins in the food that we're eating. And so as we support, and this is his approach to healthcare that I admire so much, is that he's really working on a cellular level to remind the body and to give it that blueprint of how to heal itself. Because when we start supporting the cells to once again communicate, then the systems of the body start remembering what to do, and they'll start excreting those metals. They'll start taking, which then the candida improves because the metal toxicity has improved, and it's just like this chain reaction. And that goes back to the philosophy of healing, is that as we work on those cells having better communication so the body knows what to do so that it can heal itself, it kind of goes back to that family environment and remembering to also heal our communication with ourselves, like he was talking about earlier, how we have all these miniature ongoing dialogues in our mind that if we were to speak them out loud, we would sound crazy. But we really need to go back to that communication that we're saying to ourselves, those thoughts that we have. And so I had to really work, and still do, but I had to train my mind to focus on thoughts that then would create the words of healing I spoke over my boys. And I would say to them, we're doing great stuff. We're healing. We're feeling better. We're feeling happier, even though that probably wasn't really happening at the time. It was a hard go at it for for many years, really just until last year. We've just really surfaced last year after 9 years of supporting his body to heal. So I'm happy to say in this 10th year, he's completely indistinguishable among his peers. He's playing football. He's getting great grades in 6th grade. He's mainstream in the classroom, like significant, miraculous healing. But the reason why that happened was because I attached more to my joy and knew that my happiness was more important than his diagnosis. And so I started watching my thoughts and had to train my mind to have these thoughts of healing, because my thoughts affected my words, and then my words created my actions, which created my habits, which created my character, which created my destiny. It's a Gandhi quote. It's been my guiding philosophy in this healing journey. So I just wanted to share that with you today, that our care plans are much more than just the supplements and the nutrition that we take. It's really the thought process and returning back to our joy. And what an opportunity. Our symptoms are telling us to stop, and that we can go a different direction. It doesn't have to be this way. And as we start healing our thoughts and our words and our actions, then our relationships also start healing, because as we begin to support the cells to communicate, we're also communicating more honestly with ourselves, with our children, with our husbands or partners or wives, and our whole dynamic of this life that we're living shifts and improves. And so in a lot of ways, I'm really thankful that autism came into my home. My nightmare has turned into my happiness, really, because I stopped fighting it. And I stopped trying to wish for my life prior to autism. That was another thing I realized, was I really loved my life before autism came in my home. I had everything I wanted. Life was great. And autism just blew all that up in a heartbeat, almost overnight. And I had to stop wanting what I used to have and start really acknowledging and embracing what I had in front of me. And when I started loving that and listening to that and learning from that, miraculous changes have happened and still continue to happen. So, thanks.
I love Kara's story. It's just so inspirational, and I think it shows that when we focus on the negative, we bring negative to us, and our thoughts are power. And Kara's journey has been nothing but inspirational, because she stayed positive throughout the process. And at times, I'm sure there was times she didn't feel so positive, but she willed her way and her family's way to health. And sometimes that's what it takes, is the belief that I will get better. The people I see recover from the most devastating diseases believe they're going to get better. And sometimes it doesn't happen, even if I'm not going to say always, so people can sit there and go, well, I didn't believe enough, I'm still sick. But they will their way to seeing the bright side of things. She embraces the disease and what great things it's brought into her life, instead of focusing on the negative that it could have been. And thank God her son had autism, because I got to meet her, and we're friends now, and she's helping me with my office. Thank God my son had autism, because it changed my life. And disease is not disease. Sometimes it's a wake-up call, and sometimes it's a wake-up call for a whole family, which it's been for mine. And it's changed thousands of lives, I would hope, because I've changed, and I was able to take that to my patients. So we don't always understand things that happen to us physically, but it's all our perspective and how we approach it. And that can be the most powerful thing that we can bring to not being a diagnosis. So we'll take another break, and we'll be back in 20 minutes and have a short session, and then I'll answer questions. Thank you.